This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I'm covering this because so many of you have asked me if I would cover it, so I decided I'll cover it since people are requesting it. That is this video by Chris Brown and Future called High End. It's high end, all right. Some high end crap. Because this is just yet another video which emphasizes how the occult operate, which emphasizes demonic possession. We see it over and over. How original, right? We can go back to Thriller with the zombies and with Michael Jackson turning into a werewolf. Video after video with vampires and people being demonically possessed just constantly through repetition, showing this stuff over and over. But we're supposed to think it's cool and it's artistic. And it's nothing more than just the same crap that Hollywood and the music industry continue to pimp out. And I've exposed Chris Brown before, as well as Future. Chris Brown, of course, has his clothing line, Black Pyramid, which features the pyramid, but that must be a coincidence as well. He's always showing up the same signs, the same symbols as the rest of these puppets. But again, we're all crazy. We're just seeing these things, even though they all have the same markings tattooed on them. They all flash the same symbols on their magazine covers. You got a guy with a Black Pyramid fashion line. I mean, how much more obvious can this stuff get? And let's take a look here at this pretty embarrassing music video. It starts, of course, with this. It says this film, because I guess they're considering this video a film, and its contents do not inherently convey or praise any kind of occult. So you get mockery right there. The images within are to be taken solely as art. It almost feels like that's a direct attack on me, but of course it's not. I doubt that they are aware of my channel or anything like that, but let's be realistic here. For how long have I been saying that the occult operates under the term art, right? They can do and say whatever they want. Marina Abramovich can literally be drawing with blood on the wall, writing a recipe for a blood ritual, and people say it's art because she says it's art. Well, same here. So Chris Brown mocking all of us and Future and all these characters by saying we're not praising the occult. This is just to be taken solely as art. What an absolute joke. So the video starts and you get Future singing, driving down the road, and they show us a blood moon, a giant blood moon. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of the occult, most of their rituals, other than ones that pertain around holidays like the equinoxes, the solstices, Halloween, Beltane, these specific dates which are calendared in every year for them to perform these rituals, they also perform many of their rituals revolving around certain types of moons, whether it's a full moon or a new moon, or specifically a blood moon. Now, during blood moons, blood sacrifices are what's used. There's certain times that, these people believe that magic contains more energy and is more beneficial for the satanic practitioner during these time periods where the moon is full, or the moon is a new moon, or specifically when the moon is a blood moon. It desires that the practitioner and the spells and the rituals that they perform, that they have, it's more likely that their wishes are going to be granted, and that whatever demonic entities they summon will appear and perform, whatever it is that they're asking of them to do. There's lunar cycles where they perform specific rituals and magical workings. And of course, there are other types of moons that they use to perform this. So the blood moon itself is symbolic of blood rituals. When there's blood moons, they perform human sacrifice rituals, which you'll see in this video. So as the video goes along, and they let us know that it's a blood moon, suddenly we're underground. We're underground in a basement somewhere. Wink, wink, because most of these rituals occur underground. If people only knew what was underneath us, what they've built. There is an underground world underneath us across the entire United States of America. You could talk about just specific places like what's under Disney or what's under the Denver airport or what's in the Ozarks, but they have built an underground network to transport drugs, to transport children for all of their rituals, and that's where they perform, and that's how they get away with this stuff. It's all done in secret, but they let you know that this is what's going on. So as the video goes on, we see Chris Brown in a coffin. Right now, regular people just go, oh, it's just a Halloween video, and he's a vampire. They don't understand that movie after movie about vampires and drinking blood is just showing you what these people do. These people are cannibals. These people drink blood during these rituals. They become demonically possessed during these rituals, but people don't want to believe it. People instead will go, what, do they turn into a bat and fly away? Because they sensationalize these things to make it look more fiction than reality, but they're also letting you know, because part of their magic, part of how their craft works, by showing us this stuff and letting us know that they're doing it, it enhances the power of their spells. So you see Chris Brown completely under demonic possession. You can see that he has a pyramid, multiple pyramids drawn in on his forehead. Must be a coincidence. Maybe he's just paying homage to his Black Pyramid brand, just trying to do a little marketing for himself, right? That's what some of the sleeping masses will say. You can also see on his body all the tattoos he has. That must be a coincidence as well that he has the upside down pyramid tattooed on his stomach. Something that's there for life, unless of course you get surgery to get it taken off. He just happened to go to the tattoo parlor and he said, I don't know, man, I really want to get something big on my stomach. Should I get like a fireball? Should I get like, how about just a basic triangle upside down? And the guy's like, oh yeah, that's a great shape. You sure you don't want to maybe go with a rectangle? I don't know. What about a rhombus? Oh, that's a good shape too. Let me sleep on it. And then he came in the next day and said, you know what? Let's do the triangle. It's a cool shape, right? But instead, let's get an upside down one, kind of like the yield signs on the highway. Oh yeah, what a great idea. I mean, let's be realistic here, how thought out this stuff, just look, you can see the markings all over these guys' bodies. They mark themselves. That's why almost every celebrity has stars on them. You think they all just love stars? It's how they communicate with each other, so they know they're part of the craft. I mean, athletes have a star in their elbow. Like, what are you, a cowboy fit? No. Oh, what do you have it for? Oh, they won't tell you. Oh, I thought it was cool. You can see the star tattoo on him. Find a celebrity that doesn't have one. They have stars behind their ears, stars in their elbows and their arms. I mean, it's all right there. They mark themselves. They show themselves. So, as he rises out of his coffin here, we then see, which it's almost laughable. It's just so stupid, these videos. We see other people who are demonically possessed now running around. Then Future decides that it's time to murder everyone in the room. So he pulls out his gun and he shoots all these people dead. We then see another guy holding up someone's head. He's decapitated someone. So you see that they're cutting during these murders. They're cutting again and showing you the blood moon. Now, why do you think that is? They already showed us the blood moon in the beginning. Now all these murders are going on underground, and they cut to above ground and let us know that it's a blood moon, and this is a blood moon ritual. Pretty easy to figure out if you're awake, right? Why would they cut back to it? It wasn't just like some shot where they were panning while he was driving. They're saying, hey, check out the city. Cool. No, they want you to know this stuff. So as the murders take place, they show you the blood moon. They show a decapitated person. They show another guy holding a decapitated head, which actually looks like a professional wrestler's mask. I believe the guy's name is Rey Mysterio. He's holding up his head with the mask on. So who knows if that's predictive programming there about a potential, future sacrifice, or who knows? You can look at the face of the one head being held. It almost looks like it's Chris Cornell. to be honest. I mean, he's got two black eyes under, this is how they work. I mean, they'll show you this stuff right in our faces, but most people refuse to believe it, refuse to see it. So they could commit all of these ritual sacrifices underground while the blood moon's going on. They're all under demonic possession. Of course, we're all supposed to believe this is a coincidence. They're showing us decapitated skulls. They flash the basic devil horn symbols and all that stuff, which is common. And the 666 kind of. It's kind of hard to pick up on a lot of symbols because it's dark, and they kind of have a strobe hitting, so it's hard to pick up on some of it. So they didn't bother to take screenshots of those. But this is just showing you, folks, this is a blood moon, okay? This is what happens in the occult during the blood moon. They're telling you in the beginning of this video that they have nothing to do with the occult and its art. So they're mocking you, deflecting before you even see it. The common person is not smart enough to realize what they're showing you here, but obviously I am and others are. So you put that in the beginning of the video, then you show the blood moon, then you show all these people getting decapitated and murdered while you're all under demonic possession. And we're supposed to believe that it's just a work of art, right? You see how they work? You see how they operate? They mock, they show us, yet people constantly do believe that it's art. And it's just a music video. It's ridiculous what they get away with. So this is High End by Chris Brown featuring Future and somebody else. Just more mockery, but more revealing of what really goes on during these certain moon rituals, these blood moon rituals. And during most of these satanic holidays, the occult is real. Satanism is real. The problem is that they've hidden it from everybody as far as on a conscious level of, thinking that it's real and it's going on because they don't talk about it in the news and stuff. But all these shows, all these movies, they constantly show you this stuff. Because it's in these quote-unquote things that are supposed to be fiction, nobody thinks it's real. But it is. I thank you for listening to today's show. God bless all of you and your families. This is the Rebel Cult channel. Welcome to today's show. CERN is wishing themselves a happy 70th anniversary, as if they're not egotistical and narcissistic themselves. They actually are wishing themselves a happy birthday. And I guess we all should wish them a happy birthday as well for 70 years of absolute hell. 70 years of summoning demonic entities, which is what they do at CERN. 70 years of horrible inventions like the internet, which has psychologically ruined so many lives, and of course has brought people into the hive mind and will enslave the future one day. So 70 years at CERN being celebrated. And what are they celebrating by doing? Well, if you haven't heard, CERN just recently have observed a phenomenon, a rare phenomenon at the subatomic level that could lead to a new understanding of the standard model of particle physics. Now, everybody who hears that sentence has no idea what that could possibly mean, but anytime CERN discovers something new and lets us know about it, what we can expect is that we're getting closer to them revealing what they're actually doing, which is opening up a black hole, so they speak, right? They say that they're opening a black hole. They want to discover what type of particles and all these things that nobody understands is going on, but at a spiritual level, if you look at it at a spiritual level and you understand what they're trying to do, and they talk about, well, we're going to see what's going on the other side of the universe, you start to say to yourself, wait a minute, is what they're saying at CERN actually using the word science as a covert word for summoning the quote-unquote supernatural, aiming to open gateways and realms? Well, that's exactly what they're doing, because they tell you that they're aiming to open realms and gateways. So does that sound like something that's to do with science, or does that sound like something that's actually spiritual? So for their 70th anniversary, of course, they're letting us know this big news about this rare form of decay from a subatomic particle. And the experiment is called NA62. I'm surprised it's not called CC666 or 33666. Researchers detected and measured an ultra-rare form of decay for a subatomic particle called a kaon. This is one of the rarest interactions in particle physics ever observed. According to the scientists, fewer than 1 in 10 billion kaons decay in this manner. So of course you're hearing this and you're just going, I don't know what this guy's saying. I don't know what that even means. Let me get back to my day-to-day life. Well, whenever they tell us that they're doing something and they're discovering things like this, you can expect spiritual warfare to be even more intense than ever before, because we're getting closer and closer to the lifting of the veil. And that's what they're really attempting to do, to lift the veil, to bring over what's on the other side. I mean, how much stuff have I shown you over the last couple of years involving portals, right? Even just most recently, Eminem with the portal, Katy Perry with the portal. All of these musicians are using this portal symbolism in their videos and summoning entities and showing you aliens coming across from the other side, which of course isn't really aliens. What these grays depict are actually demons, demonic entities. And that is what they're attempting to do at CERN. So they say the standard model predicts that ion decay, which is called a golden channel. So you have gold there, you have your Apollo reference, with a high degree of precision. As such, observing the phenomenon in action provides a unique opportunity for testing our current understanding of the subatomic world. If we measure a deviation from the standard model, it's a clear sign of new physics. So they're telling us that they've discovered new physics. They go, without getting too far into the weeds, what you need to know is that the ultra-rare decay the scientists were looking for, which is charged kaons, disintegrate and produce 3 other particles, a charged particle called the pion, as well as a neutrino and an aminotter neutrino and an antineutrino. Okay, so nobody knows what that possibly means. So why are they publishing this stuff? Why do they tell us these things? They don't really have to tell us anything going on, because the majority of people have no idea. Well, of course, there's a cover for what they're actually doing. So we can expect to see more and more activity in our realm that they're going to tell us has something to do with science. Oh, well, there's this portal all of a sudden open in New York City, in downtown Manhattan. You're supposed to say, well, this is a wonderful thing, right? It's just the kaon atom mixing with the pion atom and the neutrino atom and the antimatter, neutrino, antineutrino, right? So some of these other articles about what CERN just did really summarize it in layman's terms, right? Here's another article that's out there that's, well, here's an update on what's going on at CERN. And the headline is, what happened to Earth's 17-mile-long death machine that people would fear would destroy the planet? Well, what happened was something wild, and it's a clear sign of new physics. So what does new physics mean? Well, according to encyclopedia.com, new physics can be defined as the term new physics referring to a range of fundamental developments and paradigm shifts that occurred in the physical sciences during the last half of the 20th century. These include the theory of quarks, which is essential to the standard model of fundamental particle physics, the study and application of macroscopic manifestations of quantum phenomena such as superconductivity, superfluidity, lasing, and other types of spontaneous quantum self-organization, the realization of electroweak unification, and the quest for grand and total unification of the 4 fundamental interactions. So, in layman's terms here, nobody understands what that even means. Nobody understands what new physics means, nobody understands what old physics means. But the key thing to take out of it is that phrase paradigm shifts. right? Shifting in reality, shifting in what's happening in our realm, because they're obviously messing with things in our realm. Now, a lot of people believe in certain theories like the Mandela theory. Some people don't believe in that theory. We know that CERN themselves has hinted at that, right? For those that don't know what the Mandela effect is supposed to be, it's an altering of the things that are happening in our reality, right? A lot of things that people might either be misremembering, which some people blame on 5G and some of the other stuff that they're doing to our brains on a day-in-day basis, including dumping chemicals from the sky on us, but some people believe that they're actually causing a paradigm shift so that people aren't misremembering things. They're altering and changing things that are occurring. And CERN themselves, for anyone out there that laughs off the Mandela effect, which I have done in the past, but I've changed my perception a bit on some of the stuff going on. The more I've learned about what this new physics and the stuff that CERN is doing is that, what it actually means, that they very well could be altering time and altering these things. And if you actually look at some of these CIA operations, like Operation Ajax or the time travel experiment, Project Pegasus, these are actual government operations. So when you look at that, you start to say to yourselves, well, even though I can't comprehend this in the reality that we're in because of everything we've been told and how we view the world, we have to start looking at this stuff and say, why is the government experimenting in these things? Why do movies like Back to the Future come out? Somebody creatively came out with that, but if we know how predictive programming and this stuff works and all this stuff that they're doing at CERN, we have to reevaluate how we look at some of these things. Now, I'm not saying the Mandela effect is true. I'm just throwing the idea out there that we can't dismiss anything anymore. We can't dismiss anything. I mean, there's stuff out there about scientists saying they can reverse time in a quantum system. So clearly all the stuff that they're trying to do at CERN is they're trying to prepare you for these types of things. And with the predictive programming we've seen over the years with time travel and going back in time to change things, these are all seeds that have been planted. So the stuff that they're doing at CERN goes beyond even just bringing over demonic entities. And again, this is something the government has been experimenting with since the 1940s and 50s, and who even knows before that? That's just documented stuff where you can find CIA documents, government documents that show you that this is what the intelligence agencies have been working on things like time travel. And of course, we look at a lot of the patents and things that Tesla discovered, and then you could also tie in the fact that Donald Trump's uncle was the person that got a lot of these time travel documents, which is another video for another day. So if you're getting confused as to what I'm saying here, in addition to it being CERN's 70th birthday, they're talking about CERN just recently doing something that they describe as wild, that they describe as new physics. And what eventually they're going to do is start revealing the things that they're actually doing at CERN. And they're not going to reveal it and say that they're bringing over demons or anything like that. They're going to reveal this so it's very appealing to people, so that people aren't taken aback by what they're actually doing, so that people in fact say that they approve of what CERN's doing and they want to see more of these things, the time traveling and all this other stuff, and altering our reality with this new type of physics, which can only be described as what? As a paradigm shift. Are all things that are beneficial to us, right? Altering reality, altering what's real, what's not, manipulating our perceptions of reality, manipulating the past. These are all things that they'll manipulate people into thinking are good things, right? And then you start thinking about what they're going to reveal with the future technologies, like the things that they want people to get immersed in, like the metaverse and these alternate realities, these digital realities in the digital realm. They start saying to yourself, wow, this stuff is all really messed up. This is all stuff that we shouldn't be doing. In fact, this all sounds a bit crazy. Well, it is. I mean, call me crazy, but when I hear that there's a machine, when we just look at the basic things about CERN, when we hear about the death machine, we see what it is, and then they explain what they're trying to do. 99.9% of people don't understand it. If 99.9% of the people don't understand it, then we shouldn't be allowing it to happen, should we? Because whatever that small 0.001% understands that we don't, it can't be good, and it can't be beneficial for us. But they get away with these things because they tell us that they're smarter than we are, and they use all these fancy words like in these articles to make it think like it's an advancement in humanity, and we're heading towards some big breakthrough that's going to benefit all of us. And we're all supposed to sit here and go, well, that's great, I can't wait. But many, many years ago, if civilians found out that there was a small group of people, 0.00001%, that were trying to do something like this, and were funded with billions of dollars, including our tax money, they would shut this operation down fast. Just like if civilians had found out about MK Ultra when it first started, they would have shut it down. In fact, at that time, they may have even overthrown the government for the government running experiments on unwitting and unwilling participants, known as civilians, who they're doing the experiments on. Or just like some of the other operations I mentioned here, Project Pegasus, right? Why is our government doing these things? What are these things like Operation Ajax? Well, these are all things that were going on in the 1940s that you don't think by now they've mastered it? You don't think by now they know exactly what they're doing? But the real question people should have is, why are they doing it? And why are we allowing people with billions of dollars to do things that we don't understand? Well, all they have to do is tell you you're too dumb to understand it. Most people just shut up and allow the wicked people to continue to do these things. So those are some stories that are out there about CERN. I'd seen it with CERN's 70th birthday. I'd seen that they were wishing themselves a happy birthday. Of course they were. Just like every other live at, these people identify as Democrats out there who can't seem to get out. They want you to, they tell you that this is what they like to do in the bedroom. They tell you, they want you to care so much about the things that they do. And if you ignore them and you say, look, I don't care what your skin color is, I don't care what your preference is in the bed, they get upset about it because they want you to care so much. So of course CERN would let you know. I think it's part of just this new breed of species that they're deliberately creating. And of course we see that it's working because half of the civilian race now is acting this, narcissistic, psychotic way where they're constantly wanting attention. But on top of those things with CERN's birthday, there's articles out there about this new physics that CERN has just happened to come up with or come across. And again, this is them letting you know, hey, scientists can reverse time in quantum systems. You know what that means? No. Hey, did you know that we have new physics coming? No, you know what that means? No. Do you know what it means to have a new paradigm, shift in paradigm? No, I don't. Well, guess what? We're doing it. So then you start thinking about all the other stuff that's going on with misremembering and people out there that are feeling under spiritual attack 24/7. Well, probably could thank CERN on their 70th birthday for all those things. So thanks again, CERN, for summoning demonic entities, whatever else you're doing there. You're obviously getting away with it, but really if people actually cared about the human race, they probably would stop artificial intelligence, they probably stop CERN, and they would blame CERN for the ultimate downfall of humanity, which in fact is the internet, the ultimate system of control that the elites plan to use against us when we're all connected to it by the internet of bodies, which we're getting very close to. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always. This is the Eye for an Eye channel. Welcome to today's show. A good friend of mine sent me a link to this video I'm going to play for you, in regards to witch bottles, which are washing up on beaches in Texas. And I'm covering this, and you could probably see if you're new to my channel, I cover Satanism, witchcraft, almost every single day, for the most part. I mean, I cover a lot of different topics, but there's always something in the news about the existence of Satanists, the existence of witches, and the fact that we even have debates about is witchcraft real, or witches real, or Satanists real, they don't claim to really worship the devil, is really what the problem is in today's society, because there's evidence everywhere that tells us that these people were once, they were once dealt with the old-fashioned way, which was with private justice, that these people still do exist, and they still do walk amongst us. Now, this story about witch bottles washing up on shore, of course, is very, very alarming. It's alarming because of the fact that it's actually happening, and people are collecting the bottles. And in some of these cases, you can even see, and listen with the news clip I'm going to put up here, where the guy's like, I don't want to open up the bottle because he's afraid that a spell's going to be cast on him. But in fact, witches do a lot of spells revolving around using bottles, putting things in freezers. These are usually items of actual victims that they've done things to. In one of these cases, you'll hear at the end of the clip, the guy's like, yeah, there's a lot of receipts, and there's even a note saying, I'm sorry for what I've done inside of the bottle. And then he puts it on his back porch. Yeah, it sounds like you might have evidence to a murder going on at your home here. You might have actual evidence to solve a crime. You could end up on true crime here, but it's just sitting on your patio, probably while some family members trying to find their missing loved one. Because, of course, nobody ever looks to the occult like they used to. No one ever looks to people who practice and delve in black magic and witchcraft or Satanism. Why would they? Because they are told that these people don't exist, and that's why nobody ever looks at these people. And every time they do, they find out that these people have been involved in one of these crimes, and then they get arrested for it. And then, of course, our government or the governments around the world go out of the way to exonerate these people and let them out of prison, like the West Memphis 3, like the Oak Hill case that I covered. If you don't remember, the Oak Hill case was like a McMartin preschool. That video's available on the website, Uprising Revival. But they were convicted of doing these things, which is not funny. Okay, they were convicted of doing these disgusting satanic rituals with young children. There's nothing more than just, a mountain pile of evidence. They were arrested, and then, of course, they were let out of jail because, it was just all this stuff about Satan and witchcraft isn't real. Don't mind the other evidence involving the children, so we're going to let them out of jail because we're just going to hold up a middle finger and tell everybody out there that we're going to let all people who are involved in witchcraft and Satanism out of prison on means of the fact that it's not real. Witchcraft and Satanism is not real, even though every musician literally does something in their music video that shows you that they worship the devil, whether it's showing pentagrams or there's lap dancing with Satan himself. Every single movie is about magic, the Magic Kingdom. These are all normal things in our day-to-day life, yet nobody pays attention to it. So here's a clip of these bottles washing up on Texas coasts.
You've heard about a message in a bottle washing ashore, but this is harder to explain. Mysterious bottles plucked from the sea with really strange stuff inside. So what's going on?
Halloween may be over, but the discovery of these mysterious bottles on beaches is giving people the creeps. Look at these. They're known as witch bottles. 8 of them have been found on a beach near Corpus Christi, Texas. So what are these things? The Erie bottles are filled with nails and twigs. Some even contain bodily fluids. Yuck. And if you believe in this sort of stuff, some people say they also contain evil spells that are released when opened.
What I've always heard is do not open them up.
Jace Tunnel found all 8 of the bottles. He says even though he doesn't believe in witches and spells, he's not taking any chances. We spoke with Jace and his wife, Catherine.
What should you do if you find one?
I don't bring them inside my house. I take them to the backyard and put them on my fence. What I've always heard is do not open them up because whatever spirits and whatever they put in them, it could come out. And so, not that I believe in that stuff, but, why chance it?
So where did they come from? The bottles are thought to have drifted all the way from the Caribbean and South America.
This one is actually from Cuba. It's a bunch of receipts that's put in there with a note, kind of asking for forgiveness, and then they throw it into the ocean, I guess, to forgive their sins or something.
Now this may all just be hocus pocus, but if you ever find a witch bottle along the beach, perhaps it's safer just not to open it.
So the beaches in Texas are being filled with these things. Apparently this one guy is the guy collecting all the bottles. Now, this is not something that is out of the realm. If you actually look into witchcraft and Satanism, they do spells and rituals involving freezer spells, involving bottle spells. They put the hair, or they put something essential from that person that they're putting a spell on inside of these bottles, and then they, they'll either put them in their own freezer, they'll send them out to sea. I think what they do is they might cast a spell, and then when the spell goes through or something happens to the person, they might actually put these in a bottle and send them out in the ocean. But let me read the story about what's happening on these Texas shores. A Texas researcher said witch bottles of unknown origin have been washing up on beaches along the state's coastal bend. Jace Tunnel, director of community engagement at Hart Research Institute for Gulf of Mexico Studies, has found hundreds of unique and unusual items while combing Texas beaches this month. And the latest discovery is witch bottles. Witch bottles date back to the 16th and 17th centuries when people who believed themselves to be targeted by curses or spells would fill a bottle with objects including iron nails, fingernail clippings, and human hair in an attempt to rid themselves of the dark magic. Now, what's scary is we look at our society today, right? I mean, obviously we live amongst narcissists, and we really live amongst psychopaths, right? We look at all these people out there and how stupid they are, and how they act, and how they talk. What's scary is they actually think that they're smart, right? We're empowering really dumb people who are just regurgitating the communist propaganda being fed to them on the television set. But when we hear a story like this, and they go, oh, but back in the 16th and 17th century, that people were actually doing this, they would laugh and be like, wow, people back then were crazy, and they were doing what? They believed themselves to be targeted by curses and spells. Wow, those people were really... Meanwhile, those are the type of people who were completely self-sufficient, could take care of themselves, could figure out how to find food. They weren't depending on the government to eat and do all these other things. And they believed that this stuff was real because it is real. Okay, it is real. Say that word a couple times fast, and you'll find out who's behind a lot of the magic too. It is real. It is real. It is real. What does it sound like I'm saying? Something with bagels. Yeah, they're behind a lot of this stuff. Their books teach a lot about black magic, huh? And those little red bracelets they like to wear and tell you that it's cool and it's about spirituality and individualism and empowerment. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they love practicing black magic. And they normalize black magic. They normalize all sorts of dark magics in front of us on a day-to-day basis. So when we look at that and we hear about what used to occur back in the 16th and 17th century, it's frightening to know that people in today's society look and they go, wow, back in the Stone Ages, these people were really nuts. Meanwhile, people in today's society are talking about men giving birth. They're talking about being born in the wrong body. So, it just goes to show you the difference in time periods where we actually, people believe that stuff was real and they don't realize now that they're actually under a psychosis and under a spell because these people are spell casting on them and they're thinking that men are going to get babies out of their penis. Or, of course, whatever other completely insane notion that they're normalizing that these people actually believe. So, they say we found about 8 of them over the past 6 or so years and they have sticks and leaves in them, different types of vegetation. Some of them have gooseneck barnacles growing on them. So we know they've been out in the Gulf of Mexico for a while. Apparently they're supposed to have spells in them. Tunnel said he has no interest in opening the bottles. As you saw, his wife wouldn't even allow them inside the house. The theory is that if you open up the bottle, the spell will come out, whatever the reason the person had put the spell in there. I actually believe differently. I've seen stuff before. And obviously I'm not well versed in spells and spell casting. While I understand and know the occult from reading a lot of these books on secret societies, the Illuminati, etc., and realizing who they worship and the teachings of Aleister Crowley, I'm not deep into researching and studying voodoo and things like that, where you learn the actual spells. I have no interest in knowing the actual spell and things like that. But I would believe from some of the stuff that I have loosely read on witchcraft and voodoo is that they actually put these things inside of inside of a container, and a lot of the times they put it in a freezer or something like that. They cast these spells. Now, these to me are like evidence bottles, right? That somebody cast a spell and somebody they threw it out to sea, and obviously get rid of any evidence. Why would there be receipts inside of a bottle? Okay, and then a note, like the guy said about apologizing. Of course, this type of stuff would never ever be investigated anyway because they would go, oh, that's just some crazy stuff, right? I don't know what that guy's talking about. I don't know what's in that bottle. That's weird because again, in our culture, you're taught that witchcraft and Satanism is not real, but all signs around us show us that it is real, right? If you're a Christian, you should know it's real because the Bible talks constantly about witches, right? About even allowing witches to live. What do you think God was so against witches for? What do you think God was so against these certain people who really enjoy the Hershey Highway? What do you think God was so angry and against them for? Because it was just something that was embarrassing? Well, yeah, it is embarrassing, no doubt about it, but it's wicked. The core of these things are wicked, right? People don't realize that with that Gomorrah. How wicked the people were, the disgusting things, the perversion just didn't stop with, the Hershey Highway. The perversion went deeper than that. There was perversion with children we read about in that book, which I just put a video up of it on the End of the Beginning channel, reading from it. So if you don't know about it, you can go over to that channel and read about it, or listen to me reading you direct scripture. But, they were interested in doing things with angels as well. I mean, just really sick stuff. So God was not for the Hershey Highway, and he certainly was not for witches either, or Satanists. And it wasn't because he didn't like the way that they dressed or they looked, it was because of the things that they did and the things that they were, they believed in. This again goes back to Baal worship, right? So we're taught that they don't exist. The Bible tells us that they do, and then all the evidence around us shows us that these people are everywhere. They're spell casting, all the main things in our pop culture that are popular from Harry Potter, they're all about witchcraft. And everyone's just like, they won't accept it. They're so desensitized, like, oh, come on, man, you're crazy, Harry Potter, witchcraft. Right, and then you let your kid watch it, your kid wants to dabble and, wants to get a wand, you're like, what's the Tennyson? He's got a wand. And then, like I covered a couple years ago, they have the Harry Potter wand that literally reads spells out loud. And they're like, oh, it's just good, clean fun, right? Then the kid turns 13 and he's like, oh, I want to do more and play Dungeons and Dragons. He plays Dungeons and Dragons. Then from Dungeons and Dragons, he wants to get into actual spell casting and going to, his local Freemason lodge or wherever they're casting spells in town, which is all over the place. And then he moves on and goes on and on and on and just escalates. Just like people who become drug addicts, right? So they don't start out most of the time on heroin. They start out a little bit lower. I believe that's how it goes. Or someone who drinks, they don't start out, drinking a bottle of whiskey. They probably start out maybe even having a couple drinks, and it just escalates, right? It's the same thing. It's a gateway. We're in a society where everything is a gateway to the occult. Everywhere you look, everything. And people go, yeah, witches and Satanists don't actually exist. Here's more evidence of the existence. Of course, people out there will just roll their eyes and say that it's stupid, and we'll continue to go on not realizing that the problems in the world and the chaos in the world all stem from these people. Okay, the fact that they've normalized child sacrifice like they have by telling people it's their body, their choice, is utter insanity. That we don't connect the dots here of what's going on with Baal worship, but they don't, because they've created a society of narcissists, so they can't see the actual truth. They're blinded by so many earthly, worldly things, and of course they're blinded by themselves. Right? They think that these empowerment things are about them, and people trying to take their rights away, and they want. It's almost like they don't even care. They don't even want to go to Planned Parenthood, but they like almost are told to go do it because it makes them fit in more, it makes them more empowered, and they do. They don't even know what they're doing. The majority of our society doesn't know what they're doing. So again, witches aren't real. Bottles popping up on shore with spells in them, confession notes, hair lockets and bottles, pretty much evidence, right? And of course, even if there was evidence and something linked back to Satanism, they would never tell you about it because they never want to make these things public. And when they do, like that guy that recently got arrested for these two girls on a hike trail, I covered it over on the website. He came out and said that there was some type of satanic ritual that occurred. And of course, the media just immediately, because they have to cover it when he says that on a very publicized trial, they just dismiss it and act like it's all crazy. And I'm not saying that his defense is crazy or not crazy because I don't really know the evidence that was there because they don't show you much of the evidence so that you can make your own, have your own, idea of what actually occurred. But we know whenever that narrative comes out, they just start laughing off, dismissing off, saying, oh, this guy's just trying to get away with it. It's crazy. He's got a crazy idea of what really occurred and nobody will ever believe it. So it continues to, in people's minds, make them think that Satanism and witchcraft are real. And there's tons of evidence around all of these murders that are very well-known murders that there's occult connections to it. I mean, all one has to do is look at the John Wayne Gacy one and his house and how it's kind of just used by, people who are involved in these satanic rings, including Gacy. Right? He didn't do all, there's a lot of evidence that shows that he didn't do everything that was underneath that house, and that his house was literally an open door for these people, just like when you go down the highway, right? And there's signs on the highway for Freemason lodges, okay? So all the Freemasons in every town know where they can go to a lodge. What is that about? Oh, well, it's about them networking with each other, and they know where they can go if they want to do some type of ritual, etc. But people are just like, oh, it's just there so they can go have a beer, right? Our tax money funds the signs that go up in every highway. Well, the same thing with a lot of these rings. They know in each town that they're in where they can go, where they can actually buy and sell and do this stuff. And obviously with the thing in Washington with the pizza, we all learned back then, right? With the signs and symbols that were on all the for businesses, because that's how they communicate with signs and symbols. So you can see the symbol on one of the businesses, they can go to that business, and they could ask to speak to the owner of the business, and then they know where they can go and they can network that way. So it's frightening. These people are all around us. It is frightening. It's frightening that we're allowing them to exist in our society, that we're allowing them to do these things and get away with it. But we've all been, our parents, our grandparents, they've allowed them to set this country up this way, the same country they're sabotaging now, so these people can run free, and the laws and rules have been set up to protect them, and not us, of course. And, well, it's just utter insanity. Witches are real, Satanism is real, this is just more proof, but of course it'll just be ignored and laughed off, as always, but I'm here to tell you about it, and thank my friend for sending that to me. Thank everybody out there. Hope more of you will consider joining the website, uprisingrevival.com, if you haven't. There's a lot of great content over there, including some of the shenanigans going on over in the land of bagels. I mean, it's probably one of the more funny things I've covered in recent memory, maybe the funniest, when they're releasing hostages, and they're all hugging and laughing. I mean, you can't make it up, how ridiculous these scripts are. I thought when we saw The Hook, that school up in the Sandyville, I thought then we probably would never see anything with the acting and etc. crisis events, people. I can't say the word because the algorithm. I thought we would never see anything like that. Parkland is pretty unreal. This is epic comedy. So it's over on the website, uprisingrevival.com, because you can't speak truth here too much on YouTube, especially about things like that. So that would be an Insta strike, probably an instant deletion of the channel, which doesn't surprise anybody anyway. So hope to see more people over there. A reminder too, if you haven't subscribed to my backup channel, Unite Uprising, I uploaded my YouTube video over there. A lot of people wanted to see. I have a lot of new content over on that channel too. So if you like my content, I highly recommend you join, because if any one of these videos gets a strike, I'm gone for 2 weeks. There'll be a lot of important stuff with the holidays coming up, etc. Nimrod, all sorts of things I'll be covering. And also, a call for vengeance has been approved for anybody out there that's still listening. Please make sure you're subbed to that channel as well. We're gonna get both those channels up and running. And if you ever want to catch me in a live stream, not the premieres, a live stream where I actually talk and interact with the audience, I recommend joining those channels because it would be over there, not here. Thank you guys for being here. Hope you're all well. God bless you as always and your families. This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. In light of the stories that have come out in regards to pagers exploding and walkie-talkies exploding, in covering that story, I mentioned that you would soon see propaganda from the mainstream media, the state-run media, because that is what the mainstream media is. It's state-run. This is not independent. This is all our tax money funding state-run media, pretending to be some type of course, that's part of the psychological operation, pretending that it's independent journalism. It's state-run media. So since then, we've had a bunch of articles come out, just like I said they would, because a lot of people out there were questioning the story about pagers, saying how in the world and why in the world do they have pagers? And secondly, if you're talking about a terror group like Hezbollah, why wouldn't they check the pager in the first place if they're so paranoid about something happening with a cellular device? Because of course the media doesn't want you to realize that they can send pulses, electromagnetic pulses to your phone, which could in fact turn your phone into a bomb. They didn't realize that so many people would start to get very suspicious of the story, so of course they're running articles like these. Don't fool yourself about the exploding pagers. pagers, your phone is not a bomb. They promise, right? From booby-trap walkie-talkies to exploding pagers, could our phones and cars be next? Well, of course, the answer to that is yes, 100%. But they'll tell you the opposite because that's what the state-run media does. They lie and lie and lie. And they have to make sure that they get propaganda like this out after an event like that because people start to say to themselves, is my phone potentially a threat? I mean, I've had days where my phone has gotten really, really hot. Could something happen with my phone? So you have to see some of the state-run media clips that I'm going to play for you in this video. So please make sure you stick around. You're going to want to see them. You're going to want a good laugh. But let me just read to you some of the stuff that is out there first. So some of these articles, look how this is how they use deceptive mind control. Could my wireless headphones, baby alert camera, or any number of other connected devices be configured by some bad actor to blow up? Question mark. I love how they use the word bad actor now. Ever since we all use that word crisis actor, they hijacked that and they use the word actor in real events. Kind of like they took the word, because we used to all say things like, oh, it's time to wake up, there's an awakening happening, and they took that and made it woke, right? That's how their deceptive practices work. So could some bad actor blow up one of my devices? Could my new Chinese internet-connected car be remotely turned into a four-wheeled zombie killer by the Chinese government the next time they have a disagreement with the West? And they love using terms like that. That's part of the psychological operation, right? Zombie killer, four-wheeled zombie killer. People out there read it, they dismiss it, and they think that the things that we're all saying is crazy. But the fact of the matter is, they can. And if you watch the behavior of the government, no matter what your political affiliation is, wherever you might go and pretend that you're voting for at the fake election, all these people are showing that they cannot be trusted, conservatives and Democrats. So the answer to that is yes. So it goes on to say, as for getting an explosive charge into even one iPhone or Android, let alone thousands, that's probably not possible, which is why the tech brains behind the first of this week's attacks went for old pagers. Fairly simple devices, beepers, date back to the early 1980s and have pockets of space inside for the tiny amount, 10G is plenty, needed to become a small bomb. So now they're trying to convince you that inside the pager, it's not cram-packed, there's space in there. So people could put bombs, apparently, inside these pagers, which are beyond tiny, right? But they're saying, well, there's a little bit of space in there. And they're also just disregarding the whole notion of Hezbollah, who is supposed to be a terror group, who's supposed to be using things offline, technology that's offline, like a 1980s pager, because they're afraid that they're going to be attacked with cell phones. Yet they didn't check these things in the first place, where you could very easily open up a pager. It's not that difficult to actually open up. You would think they would at the very least maybe run it through some type of some type of detector to be able to see if there was a bomb inside, right? So listen to this. So they say a modern smartphone is packed to the last fraction of a millimeter with circuitry and other hardware. Finding space for new features in an upcoming phone model takes years of negotiation between teams at a company like Apple or Samsung. But here's the reality of the matter. Let's take our attention off of putting a bomb in a phone, because it is a bit of a ridiculous theory at this point, and let's focus on the fact that an electromagnetic pulse is real, and it's been proven that they can send a pulse to your phone and blow it up. Here's a video clip that they don't want you to see, where somebody is sending an electromagnetic pulse to an electromagnetic pulse, which is a phone, and the result doesn't look too great. Imagine this was in your pocket. Yeah, even better, imagine that was right next to your head. So did that phone have a bomb in it? Well, of course it didn't have a bomb in it, but they want to keep everybody at a dumbed down level, paying attention to narratives like that. Well, you can't get inside the phone. The phone is cram-packed with stuff, so they can't really put a bomb in a phone, but really you're walking around with a ticking time bomb, because that's what a phone essentially is. And you may have noticed over the years, you may remember, I mean, I know most people out there don't even think anymore, but when the cell phones first came out, a common problem was that people were always having to get new batteries because the batteries were dying off, they weren't lasting as long, but now you can't even remove a battery from a phone. And I thought that these guys were trying to make money, right? I mean, if Apple and all them, if it's just about being a company and the goal of the company is to make money, well, then they would never have gotten rid of you being able to remove a battery in the first place, because they would have just done what they used to do, which is constantly force people into buying new batteries, because the phones would go junky after 6 months to a year of usage, and people would constantly have to get new batteries. But they don't want you to realize that the lithium battery in your phone can be used as an exploding device. Kind of like how they avoid all those stories out there about people with electric vehicles and how their cars catch fire in their garage. You never hear too much about those stories. In fact, the government is giving you money and tax exemptions to go buy an electric vehicle, which they will have the ability to shut off and on. But of course, as you heard in that article, they like to crack jokes about China having the ability to shut down your zombie vehicle, blah, 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 blah. The simple fact is that they're ticking time bombs as well. The lithium batteries in those cars explode all the time. Most times we see stories of hurricanes occurring and people with electric vehicles, homes burning to the ground, because their electric vehicle has conveniently caught fire. And the other thing they don't tell you about the electric vehicle is that when it gets below a certain temperature, you know, this thing called winter in places like New York or Chicago, your car's not going to start. And the battery in an electric vehicle is not like a battery in a gas-powered car. The battery itself in the electric vehicle is what you're paying for when you buy an electric vehicle. So there's no replacing the battery. The car itself becomes a clunker. But these are things they don't want you to think, because, well, these are all things that would make too much sense, right? So now what I want to show you is something that's really important to see, because they talk all the time about state-run media and propaganda. All they produce is propaganda. They can't even give you stories that make sense when they try to defend what they're saying. They just completely talk about something else. We're all talking about electromagnetic pulses. The media will not talk about electromagnetic pulses, because thus their whole theory will be debunked about how your phone can be turned into a bomb. So what they do, and I'll give you specifics here. I'm going to show you from France 24. Now, France 24 is considered French public broadcast service, right? So it's PBS. You've heard of PBS in America. They air all that garbage. They are the propaganda like Sesame Street that they want you to put your kids in front of. Well, state-run media is what France 24 is, and it's essentially what you see in America. There's just the illusion in America that they're independent journalists, because they really want you to believe that these are all independent things that they're talking about, and they all care about you, and they're just reporting news when in fact the news itself is scripted. State-run media is what you're seeing going on around the world right now. Your tax money is funding it. So this is one of the first clip I'm going to play for you. This is one of the funnier things I've seen. Listen to this. iPhones, cars, and toilets. No, these devices did not explode during electronic attacks in Lebanon. Now, the reason I'm showing you this first is because this is propaganda at its finest. Talking about iPhones exploding, and in fact, you'll see a clip from a store that sold phones that blew up, but they want to tell you that the phone didn't really blow up, that there was a walkie-talkie in the store. So in other words, there's a store that sells cell phones in the year 2024, which makes sense, right? But somehow they had walkie-talkies in there on the shelves to be bought, and it blew up, right? And they're saying that that's disinformation, because the person who posted it said phones were blowing up in the store, because clearly there's not walkie-talkies being sold in the store. And even if there were, isn't the narrative that's out there that Israel targeted specific devices were owned by Hezbollah? So a device being sold in a store would mean that what? Oh, a random citizen could have it, because it's in a store where it's being sold. So some kid could have bought it and went home with it. But they don't want you to realize that phones can do this. And it's likely this event occurred using cell phones. So they put in things like this, iPhones and toilets. And they're going to show you stuff posted online. And I want you to watch this, okay? They're going to show you somebody showing a picture of a toilet blowing up. And they put this in here just, purposely, because they want you to dismiss the whole notion of phone by putting toilet next to it, right? Because if you hear about the phone, you go, oh my goodness. But then you hear toilet, you automatically go, yeah, how are they going to blow up my toilet? What, are they going to put a bomb in my toilet? Okay, this is funny. Blowing up toilets, poopy, ha. And everybody laughs and dismisses it, which is why they did. But look at this way that the state-run media works, because this is what I believe is coming to America soon, and all countries. They literally take people's tweets, and then they try to debunk their tweets or anything they upload online. I'm surprised they haven't uploaded my videos, but they're probably afraid because they realize that people would probably see my channel and wake up, which is what they've always been afraid of, because too much common sense actually wakes people up to what's going on. So they show you people's tweets, then they claim that they're debunking it, calling people Russian misinformation. It's all the same talking points we hear in America, but I've never seen this type of news reporting before, where they're bringing up people's tweets and then they're debunking it. So they don't even mention the fact that some of these people could be joking around, right? Uploading a picture of a toilet. Then they're like, well, this picture of a toilet we found was from 2019, so it has nothing to do with this story, right? So people go, oh, people are just posting stuff, they're making stuff up, right? Then they actually show you video from the store that exploded, where there were all cell phones inside, and they say, well, this is misinformation too, because it wasn't a phone that blew up, it was a walkie-talkie. You can trust us. Look at this. This is absolutely hilarious.
Up next, it's time for Truth or Fake. Catalina Marchand Abreu here in studio. In today's edition, you're talking about X. Catalina, users are sharing images of a number of electronic devices that supposedly exploded in Lebanon, as well as those pagers and walkie-talkies earlier this week. Tell us more.
That's right, Sharon. A wave of terror has also spread on social media following these exploding devices in Lebanon, as users are also sharing other images of other devices that they claim also exploded as part of the attack. Amongst the claims, an iPhone shared on X here by a pro-Russian user who says new batches of electronic devices, iPhones and notebooks are exploding right now in stores. As this user also includes this video within the post saying footage shows terrified employees of one such shop, meaning this mobile phone shop, who miraculously managed to run just outside just in time. Then we have a second tweet by Jackson Hinkle, who is a known misinformer on X, who claims that cars are now randomly exploding in Lebanon. If Israel can do this in Beirut, they can do it anywhere, he says. Then there's a final claim that we found, a claim made by pro-Israel user on X who says that a Hezbollah activist was allegedly hit by an explosion while using the toilet. So going completely off theme with the electronic devices there, Sharon.
So where are these images really coming from then?
Well, Sharon, we'll start where we left off here with this toilet claim. This photo was actually from 2020. Here published, we found it by the South China Morning Post, reporting on the destruction of a toilet seat due to a homemade bomb that was placed in a public toilet in Hong Kong. So nothing to do with Lebanon whatsoever. This actually happened during COVID in China. Then we're going to take a look at this post that we just saw by Jackson Hinkle, claiming that cars are exploding everywhere in Lebanon. This claim is misleading since the video is actually real, but it's actually from yesterday, reported here, also published by TF1. It's actually a car that exploded due to the walkie-talkies, however, not due to the car being embedded with explosives themselves. So a misleading claim. Finally, the claim that the iPhones exploded in Lebanon as part of this attack. We actually conducted a reverse image search, and we found that this iPhone image is actually from 2021, published here in Cairo 24 in Egypt, reporting on the explosion of an iPhone belonging to a Cairo resident, where we also found within the article the same image that you see published in the viral claims. Although there is a tricky twist here, which makes this post even more misleading, since this user actually posted this video together with this photo. A video that we found was actually took place yesterday. Real images that occurred outside the explosion of this mobile phone shop located in Sidon, Lebanon, as a result of the walkie-talkie explosions. Here reported by Al Jazeera, where we can find much of the same elements in these images as well. For example, this man with a tank top, as well as the window shop. So an explosion due to a walkie-talkie, not due to an iPhone, per the fake claims. Overall, these posts are fear-mongering posts, adding on more terror to the already stressful situation for the residents of Lebanon.
And there are reports that Hezbollah members were seen throwing their iPhones in panic following these attacks, Kalina.
That's right, Sharon. Despite the fake claims that we just reported on the iPhones, Le Monde does report that due to this general panic that took over Lebanon, Hezbollah members actually threw their phones to the ground, worried that all of their communication equipments were compromised, including their iPhones. So an attack that succeeded in instilling fear and paranoia not only for Hezbollah, but an overall the Lebanese population in what is this psychological warfare trick. There are reports that there's panic-stricken Lebanese have tossed their power banks. They sleep with mobile devices outside their rooms. They fear that perhaps their fridges will blow up next, or even their cigarette lighters. So they'll never look at an electronic device the same way ever again, as Human Rights Watch denounces this attack as an indiscriminate and illegal attack under international law.
So that right there is state-run media at its finest. And it continued from there. Because it wasn't just those clips of exploding toilets and then these people talking about panic and fear propaganda and how all these people out there just pumping fear. Meanwhile, that's all that the news is nothing more than fear. So to call anybody out there that exposes what the government's doing fear is pretty hypocritical, since the news itself is nothing but fear, telling you that this is a threat to your democracy, you're going to lose your freedoms, all these things that they constantly pump out, and then we all expose them for who they are. They're really nervous that people are going to start realizing what their phones actually can do to them. The dangers of their phone, not including the other stuff that I talked about over the years with radiation and cancer. You're literally walking around with cancer in your pocket, something that's going to give you, exposing you to cancer, on top of the fact that a lot of men can't have babies anymore, and they don't figure out why, and it's not just from the magic potions of the chemtrails, it's from the radiation exposure from your phone. So here's the other clip here. Can your phone blow up? Remote device attacks in Lebanon stoke panic. And here's an expert telling you that it's not possible for the phone to blow up. Some people's phones get hot, but that's about it. And well, remember the clip I showed you earlier about, being able to send electromagnetic pulse to a phone? Yeah, well, that's proof that you can send a pulse to a phone and blow it up. Yet these people want you to think, well, your phone can catch fire, but that's only if your phone overheats, right? They don't want you to realize that a wicked rogue government can send electromagnetic pulses to phones and cause utter chaos to ensue. In fact, we've seen a lot of the programming with cell phones that they've shown us subtly in movies over the years. But here's more from your state-run media about, can your phone blow up?
This week's attacks on Hezbollah pagers and radios has spread anxiety among the Lebanese people and a sense that no electronic device is safe. With a fair amount of confusion as to how the explosions were triggered, you might be wondering whether you can trust the phone in your pocket or the earphones on your head. Well, here to bring some clarity for all of us is Tech24's Peter O'Brien. Great to speak with you, as always, this Friday. These attacks were, of course, unprecedented in scale, but were they unprecedented in how they used technology?
Not really. From all the reporting we've seen, it's clear that some sort of plastic explosive was put inside these devices and triggered by a detonator, which itself was triggered when these devices were sent a certain signal. So this is nothing new. In fact, Israel itself has been accused of carrying out this type of attack, although on a much smaller scale, for decades. You only have to look at Yahya Ayyash, who in 1996 was in Gaza, who's Hamas's chief bomb engineer. He answered a rigged mobile phone, which exploded, and that's how he was killed. So, as you say, yes, we've seen it before, but never on this scale, never such a mass explosion of devices all at once, having gone undetected for so long.
Now, initially, we saw some claims that this may have been the cause of a cyber attack that caused the batteries to overheat and explode. That might have sounded plausible to some people because we have heard of cases of batteries and devices exploding.
Yeah, I think it's no surprise that in the initial kind of fog of war, you get some of the more outlandish theories coming up. But I think it's pretty safe to say that this has been debunked. Even if it were possible to send a line of code to a pager that would cause its battery to overheat, it's very unlikely that this would cause an explosion, let alone the kind of simultaneous explosions we saw in hundreds of different devices. Having said that, obviously a battery like the one I've got here can overheat, it can set fire, and it can explode. It's made up of layers and layers of positively and negatively charged cathodes and anodes, and they're attached to a circuit. As you use the device, it slowly drains that energy, and when you charge it back up, it slowly gains more energy. So if you short circuit it, for instance, by damaging it, it can release that energy a lot more quickly. And we've seen these kind of videos online of battery packs kind of filling with gas and then exploding as they create kind of let all that energy out really quickly and then create fires or a buildup of gases. But the point is, in these small electronic devices, whether they be a pager, a radio, a battery pack, or your iPhone, your portable headphones, they're often made of deliberately flimsy plastic as a failsafe to make sure that they don't build up a huge pressure of gases and then explode. Right? If it were hermetically sealed metal and then that were to be pierced, yes, it would cause a massive explosion if there were a buildup of gas inside. But that's not the case. Certainly doesn't seem like the case with this attack. Although I will offer a PSA that if you see your battery pack slowly inflate like a pillow, definitely just go and get it disposed safely, because yes, they can be very dangerous.
Okay. Great advice there. Thanks, Peter. Now, it looks like these explosives, in this case of the pagers and the walkie-talkies, that they were implanted into the devices before they were shipped out. So people, I think, are asking, if this could happen on this type of scale, could it happen in an even larger scale?
Yeah, I think it's pretty far-fetched to imagine that the latest generation of iPhone or Samsung will be somehow implanted with plastic explosives and distributed to everyone in the world. I mean, it's just not feasible. Not just because those most high-tech devices are very tightly packed in and it's hard to get more stuff in there, but simply because someone somewhere will be reviewing it or unboxing it and will open it up and tear it down and see what's going on in there. In fact, it's really surprising to see that Hezbollah didn't do that, or if they did, that it passed their tests anyway.
Because these examples that you're giving, though, you're talking about industrial scale hardware. What about like personal devices that we all have in our homes?
Yeah, I mean, there's been one example of a massively widespread phone booby trap, if I can call it that. That would be Anom. So in the years 2018 to 2021, the FBI developed a phone which was purposefully booby trapped in a way. It basically it was sold as a encrypted phone with a secure messaging app to criminals around the world. And actually, the trap was that the FBI could see what was being messaged on it at all times. And it was so successful that about 12,000 of these devices were distributed to criminals around the world. And over the course of a few years of gathering intelligence on exactly what kind of gangland hits were going on, what kind of drug runs were going on, police around the world were able to make about 800 arrests of suspects in 16 different countries. So I think both of these examples, what we've seen with Hezbollah and what we saw with Anom, show that if you are a group that has enemies and you get your hardware from one specific source, yeah, you can't be sure that it'll be entirely secure.
So that's how propaganda works, right? They want you to believe that all of us are propaganda, we are all fake news, we're all misinformation, right? Because they don't want you to believe that your phone could actually be dangerous or a weapon after they created this story and put this story out there, or this story circulated that's out there. They don't want people to realize this about cell phones. So they immediately are trying to cover their tracks and saying anybody out there that says your phone could blow up is disinformation. Because like I said, the one thing that they cannot lose is people being dependent on their technology, period. This whole bubble pops. This whole game ends. If people get offline, they stop empowering them with doing things digitally, they stop watching their fake news or their fake media, thinking that they're getting some organic, people out there who are influencers or pumping the same communist propaganda. They cannot have you pull away from the hypnotism. Thus, they can't have you thinking any of this stuff about your phone. And they know most people will believe them because most people often do. But I tell you here on this channel the truth. And an EMP can blow up your phone. Now you might say, well, why would the government ever come after me? Well, maybe in 20 years they will, right? I mean, they come after the rest of us. We've all lost our freedoms to speak. We've all lost our freedoms to earn financially in certain ways because we didn't get poisoned. We've all lost a lot of things. Well, other people out there haven't yet. But when suddenly the government decides that they don't care what gender you are and they don't care what highway you ride, whether it's the Hershey one or whatever, they're suddenly going to say, you know what? Now it's your turn. Oh, you did what? You violated your carbon footprint. What do you think? It didn't apply to you? That it was only for conservative people? But since you agree with us and liked us and got us to this point, that we were going to give you a pass because of what you like to do in the bedroom? Well, guess what? That's all over with now. We just used you to help empower this plan to keep the citizens divided. And you guys worked as foot soldiers for us because you were too brain dead to figure out what was going on. But now, well, we're going to do the same thing to you. And we're going to set a false to your phone maybe if you continue to disagree with what we're saying or you're posting things on social media that we don't agree with. People go, well, that's extreme. They won't do that. No. Well, you currently have a government that stripped millions of people, let's say billions of people, you look at the global government, of their right to earn money and work for a living if they didn't put something inside their body. They also killed a lot of people by doing that as well. So why wouldn't they do it with an electromagnetic pulse? They're already poisoning people, right? They're already letting criminals run free on the streets. They're actually funding and paying criminals to walk up to people and punch them in the face. So you don't think the government themselves are funny? Well, of course they would. So this is what I said would occur. They'd have to pump out propaganda about your phone blowing up and saying it's a conspiracy. Don't worry about it, right? Your phone's not a bomb. Don't fool yourself. They really have pagers. Booby trap walkie-talkies to exploding pagers. Could our phones be next? And our cars? That's a conspiracy. Oh yeah? Who do you think you're giving control up with your car when it's an electric vehicle and it's a driverless vehicle? We don't know who's driving. Well, just technology's driving it, right? They don't know your name and who you are, and maybe they don't like you. They drive you off a cliff, right? You can trust us. You can trust Big Brother. Why? Well, because Big Brother's proven to you time and time again that they can't be trusted. So why not put all your trust in them and do their work and silence everybody else out there who's trying to expose state-run media, right? Because this is how state-run media works. Telling you that the reason that there couldn't be bombs in the phones is because you can't fit one inside of a cellular phone these days because there's less than a fraction of a millimeter inside of it. But they don't mention anything about electromagnetic pulses, of course, because, well, they don't want you to think for 5 seconds. They want you to literally think that somebody put dynamite inside of pagers and somehow Hezbollah didn't notice. Give me another break. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.